Before we begin today's video, I would like to give a shout out to one of our newest subscribers, Jalen Blackmore. Thank you for subscribing, and welcome to the family. And now on with today's Halloween special video. Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Drayhon, and welcome back to Dungeons & Dragons Character Conversion, where we take a look at a character from across media and bring them into Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition as a playable character. And we are in October, near Halloween, so as part of my normal October season, I take a look at different villains from across Dungeons & Dragons canon before the big day. And last time we took a look at the, not exactly popular Grimsword. There was no information on that guy, other than what we got from his toy and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons stat block. But today we are taking a look at an actually popular villain. Venger. Venger comes from the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon, from a land known as the Realm. Venger is said to be the son of the godlike figure, the Dungeon Master, who made a deal with an entity known only as the Nameless One, who took half of his soul as a sort of payment / tribute / whatever it's called. This part of his soul contained every essence of good that was in Venger. So, Venger is now completely and utterly evil. And he is trying to gather powerful weapons of good so that he can take down his greatest foe. His nemesis in this cartoon is none other than the dragon goddess, Tiamat. When I learned this, it threw me for a loop. That's just one more thing to add to the weirdness that is Tiamat. As we know Tiamat to be an utterly evil character. But, the Nameless One and Venger don't like Tiamat, for whatever reason. The theory goes that Tiamat symbolizes neutrality, or just encompasses the essence of nature. Which again, that's weird, considering who Tiamat is. We all know who Tiamat is. In Dragonlance, she's known as Takisis. That is a topic for another day. But yeah, it's just another one of those weird facts that kind of just throws you for a loop if you are a long-time Dungeons & Dragons fan. But we're not going to be talking about Tiamat and her whole debacle with Venger and the Nameless One. We are simply looking at Venger himself. So, let's go ahead and try to build Venger as a playable Dungeons & Dragons character. Starting things off with the point buy system, we want our strength, intelligence, and wisdom to be 10. Dexterity, constitution, and charisma will be our main stats here. Dexterity being a 13, constitution being a 14, and charisma being a 15. Now, why am I doing this? Well, that is because, according to Venger's stat block, that we got from the cartoon, we can actually see his stats listed, with strength, con, and dexterity, constitution, and charisma being his most important stats, while strength, intelligence, and wisdom are not as important. They will get a boost later, but they are not the important stats. If anything, constitution is the most important stat in Venger's arsenal. Which makes sense. Anywho, we need his race. And since Venger's goodness was taken from him by the Nameless One, I decided that the best fitting race was the Tiefling. More specifically, winged Tiefling, since he has those gigantic wings that help him fly around. Strangely, he only uses them when he is riding his nightmare. But he is a winged Tiefling, so I thought we would at least mention it. This will give us a +2 to our strength and a +1 to our charisma, give us a speed of 30 feet, a flying speed of 30 feet, dark vision, hellish resistance, and languages in common and technically infernal. But I would like to recommend changing infernal to abyssal, and we'll get more into that when we get into Venger's class features. Next is background. There are plenty of backgrounds that could work for Venger. He could be an acolyte since he serves the Nameless One. He could be a charlatan since he was able to trick many people into thinking he was a hero that one time. But I think the best one to go with is going to be the Cloistered Scholar. This will give us proficiency in history and arcana, and we get languages in Orcish and Draconic. The Orcish is to reference his orc minions that he has in the cartoon, and then you got Draconic, well, because of his beef with Tiamat, and also he did make a Demo Hydra one episode, apparently. You also get access to the feature known as Library Access. Useful, but not important. Now for our class. Because of Venger's relationship with the Nameless One, he made a pact with the Nameless One, so we want Warlock. This will give us a 1d8 hit die, starting hit points of 8 plus our Constitution modifier. Extra hit points equal to 1d8 plus our Constitution modifier per Warlock level. We get proficiencies in light armor, simple weapons, saving throws will be Wisdom and Charisma, and our 2 skills will be Deception and Intimidation. We also get Pack Magic using Charisma. Now for the otherworldly patron. When I was looking up who the Nameless One was, I got a mixed bag of results. He's the Nameless One. We know next to nothing about him. We just know that it's an ancient evil trying to ruin everyone's day. But when I was looking up the Nameless One, the wiki page that had all of the Nameless One's information did propose a theory. The Nameless One could be a type of ancient demon before the demons were actually created, or, this is the important part of the theory, but the Nameless One could be the creator of all demons himself, the creator of the endless layers of the abyss, the chained god, Tharizdun. Now, this is just a theory, so I would take that with a grain of salt. But the points that were made pointing to Tharizdun did make some sense. Whether you believe this theory or not, there is only one Warlock patron that would make sense for the Nameless One, and that is the otherworldly patron, the Great Old One. This will give us access to the feature Awakened Mind. If you subscribe to the Tharizdun theory, the otherworldly patron of Great Old One also works, since it does name Tharizdun as a potential patron if you go with this subclass. Now for our multi-class. And we're going with Sorcerer. This is because we are no longer good. We have no essence of good in us anymore. That was taken by the Nameless One. We are now a being of evil. And some of our power comes from that evil, from the darkness that was instilled in us by our patron, the Nameless One. So, I honestly could not think of a better sorcerer's origin to choose than Shadow Magic. This will give us access to Eyes of Darkness, which is pretty much just Devil's Sight. And we also get to activate darkness whenever we want. I think when we get to 3rd level, I don't remember. Which reminds me, I put down the wrong Eldritch Invocation, so we're going to have to switch that out. But anyway, our Strength of the Grave is our 2nd Sorcerer's Origin feature, which is pretty useful. Next, we're going with 2nd level Sorcerer, getting access to Fount of Magic. 2nd level Warlock will give us access to Eldritch Invocations. I recommend getting Eldritch Mind and Mask of Many Faces. Mask of Many Faces gives us reference to the time that Venger took on the face of a paladin of good and tricked many citizens into believing he was a good guy and that the main characters of the cartoon were actually the bad guys. That's a crazy episode, and I would have loved to have seen that in person. And I think that sort of trope isn't used that often, and should be used more often. Anyway, at 17th level, you should also have Agonizing Blast, Book of Ancient Secrets, Sign of Ill Omen, Undying Servitude, and instead of Devil's Sight, I would recommend going for, let's say, Eldritch Spear. That way your Eldritch Blast can go out to 300 feet. Going over to 3rd level Sorcerer, the final level of Sorcerer that we will be having for this build. We're going to get access to the meta magic options of Distance Spell and Transmuted Spell. This will let us change the elemental type of our spells to another elemental type. And of course, Distance Spell lets us target creatures that are further away. Moving on to 3rd level Warlock, I decided to go with Pack of the Tome. My original thought was to go with Pact of the Chain, but we really don't see any reference of Venger having a familiar. He does have 2 allies, a Shadow Demon and a Nightmare, but he doesn't have a familiar. And we'll get to a spell that lets us summon our allies later. Though I will point out that I wish we were able to get access to Find Greater Steed as a Warlock spell, because that would be perfect for Venger. That way he can summon his Nightmare Steed from just about anywhere, which would have been fun. If you get your DM's permission, I would recommend just getting the Obsidian Steed magic item. It's one of the wondrous items, the figurines. Since it's able to turn into a nightmare, I would just recommend trying to get that if you can get your DM to let you have that item. Moving on to level 4 Warlock, go ahead and increase your Constitution by 2 points, making it a 16. 6th level Warlock, thanks to our Great Old One patron, we have Entropic Ward. Level 8 Warlock, go ahead and increase your Dexterity and Constitution each by 1. Level 10 Warlock gets access to Thought Shield. Level 11 Warlock gets access to Mystic Arcanum. Go ahead and pick Flesh to Stone, since this is one of the spells Venger has in his stat block in the cartoon stat block. Next is Level 12 Warlock. Go ahead and grab the Feat of Resilient. This will give us a +1 to our Constitution and saving throw proficiency in Constitution. 13th level Warlock, it's Mystic Arcanum. This time, we're going to pick Power Word Pain. 14th level Warlock gets Create Thrall. It's kind of useful. He does have a way to charm other beings. He doesn't use it that often. Sort of a near last resort, but he does have that ability, it seems, in the cartoon. Or at least from what I can tell. Moving on to level 15 Warlock, next is the Mystic Arcanum of Dominate Monster. He has the spell Control Undead in his original stat block, but that spell does not exist within Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So we're just going to have to go with Dominate Monster to kinda sort of make it work similarly. Next is level 16 Warlock. Go ahead and increase your intelligence by 2 points. And finally, level 17 is Mystic Arcanum of Imprisonment. A very good spell and an important one in Venger's arsenal that he uses a good bit. Mostly to contain very powerful beings. Like, I believe he captured a princess one time. There are a couple of times he even imprisoned some of the crew of protagonists. And of course, we also need our spell list. 14 spells from the Warlock and just 4 spells from our Sorcerer. I just forgot to take the number off. I was trying to keep track of the spells I was picking, so apologies for that. For our Sorcerer spells, we're going to get Chill Touch, Fire Bolt, Light, and Message. For our first level spells, we'll get access to Expeditious Retreat, Magic Missile, and Shield. And for second level, we'll just go with Web. For our Warlock spells, the cantrips are going to be Blade Ward, Eldritch Blast, Mage Hand, and Toll the Dead. First level spells will be Hellish Rebuke, Hex, Witch Bolt, and Protection from Evil and Good. However, you're mostly just going to be using this to protect yourself from good. Next is your second level spells, Darkness, Hold Person, Mirror Image, and Ray of Enfeeblement. Third level spells are Counterspell, Dispel Magic, and Spirit Shroud. Fourth level spells, I decided to go with Blight to try to emulate one of Venger's spells in his original stat block. And the second fourth level spell is Summon Greater Demon, which will allow us to summon our friend Shadow Demon. And for your fifth level spell, go with Telekinesis. And that is all for today's build. What did you think of Venger? Let me know in the comment section down below. And until next time, this has been Drahan. And I am offline. Happy Halloween.